I have returning guest, great friend, Dr. Wade Pfau on the show. Wade, thank you so much for joining us again today.
It's a pleasure to be here. And if you are watching YouTube, I see we have matching shirts. So that's pretty cool.
We, we do. And so I had to practice this beforehand. So people that are looking at this going, what is RISA? Well, we're going to be talking about it all throughout the show, but this is retirement income style awareness. And we're going to be talking about how you can find your retirement income style and why that is so important. So let's start with that, Wade. You and Alex Margia helped create this a few years ago now. We've been using it for a couple of years in our practice. It's transformed the way we work with clients. Talk to us just a little bit about your background, what it is that you do, and what's all this RISA stuff.
Sure. So I was a professor of retirement income at the American College of Financial Services. So I really had to approach retirement from a objective, agnostic type manner. And there's just so much debate out there about should you do this or that, or should you? I've even seen articles you should be 100% stocks in retirement. Is there a role for annuities? All these different viewpoints, and just over the years, I came to recognize, these different strategies have a role to play. It really depends on the type of person that you're talking to and looking at, and who you are individually. And so Alex, with his background in psychology, he has a PhD in psychology and doing research and creating questionnaires and things. We worked together to try to figure out, could we create what's now known as the retirement income style awareness to better understand each individual and where they're coming from, and to find a retirement income strategy that will work for them so they don't have to rely on just this broader popular culture presentation of there's one way to do things, you better follow this way or you're going to be in trouble. And no, there's really multiple ways to get it right, but it's not going to be the right strategy if you're not comfortable with it. And so to help people find a strategy that they're truly comfortable with for their retirement.
That's so good. And, over the years, I've been doing this for 17 years now. And it's interesting. You can have two people come in almost the exact same situation. They could have almost the exact same investments, maybe a 401k. They could have even worked for the same company and retire the same week. And if they come in to see us and say, okay, what should we do? What should we put this into? Well, the answer might be completely different for those two people, even though their situations are almost identical. And why is that? Well, all kinds of reasons, as you know, their risk tolerances, what their backgrounds are. Someone may have their parents living with them when the other ones don't, or they may have children living with them when they don't, or they may be predisposed to early healthcare risks, or just whatever. The list goes on and on and on, and that will completely change what you might suggest they do in their situation. And so helping someone determine what their retirement income style is and what their key purpose is so important. Would you agree?
I would, yeah, and it's you always have to look at those individuals' considerations, but just the broader perspective. What the RISA tries to help people with is just getting a sense of the factors we found through that research. Are they more probability based, which means they're comfortable relying on the financial market growth to fund their retirement, or are they more safety first? Do they really feel more comfortable having protections in place so that at least for their basics in retirement, they don't have to worry about the market volatility and having to have the stock market grow for their retirement to be a success? They have protections in place. And then we found the other main factor is just how do they feel about, do they want optionality and maximum flexibility for all their assets? Or do they really feel more comfortable committing to something they know that's going to solve for their lifetime situation? They don't have to keep worrying about it on an ongoing basis. And there's no right answers to any of that. It's really then just how do you feel about these things? And let's then customize a strategy that meets those characteristics that you're comfortable with.
Very good. Well, I tell you what, before we jump into this, and I'm going to just show this book throughout the show for a lot of people that are watching today. The Retirement Planning Guidebook is something we're going to jump into, and we're going to be going through the first half of the book in today's show. But I want to let you know, this information is so important. I've watched it transform the lives of so many people, not just in the Ozarks, but all across the country. I'm licensed in 20 states now. So just this last week, I helped clients in Virginia and Florida. And so it doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter what your situation is. The information in Wade's book is so fantastic, and working through the RISA with these clients has helped just transform the way we approach their specific situations. We're going to be talking about the 4 different parts of the RISA, the quadrants. We're going to go through that a little bit. And then we're going to talk about putting it all together and how to take your assets and put it into a guaranteed lifetime income stream that will work for you and your family. So we're going to be talking about his book, The Retirement Planning Guidebook, and it's just so good, navigating the important decisions for retirement success. And you'll notice the copy, if you're watching the podcast, if you're on YouTube, I've got all these posted notes in it. I have my special notes, the things that are highlighted, things I've written off in the sides, and these are the things that I keep going back to again and again and again. Wade, at the very beginning of the book, you talk about understanding your retirement income style. What is someone's retirement income style, and why is that important when it comes to their retirement?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's chapter 1 of the book because I really view it as the first step when someone's starting to think about retirement. Like I was saying at the beginning, just there's so many different viewpoints. If you start spending time on the internet trying to learn about retirement income planning, you just run into a sea of confusion as some people tell you only to do these particular things. Other people tell you to do the exact opposite. And that's just part of the background I had with having to really understand all these different approaches to retirement, kind of recognizing that there are different ways to build a retirement income plan. And so with Alex Murguia, we set out on a research project to try to better understand, can we help people identify the retirement income approach that works best for them? And it started as a research project, but ultimately we thought it was a useful thing, and so build a company around it. And you're definitely one of our early adopters and most prolific users, so thank you so much for that. But it's a short questionnaire just to get people moving down the direction of what sort of retirement income approach is most appropriate for me. And it helps because the retirement planning guidebook is so long. We kind of set that up as chapter 1 that, okay, if your style is this, you might want to focus more on chapters 4 and 5 or chapter 6 and 7. It's to help get you that starting point so that as I talk about different approaches and attitudes towards retirement, you kind of have that head start on knowing, well, it looks like this particular approach that I'm describing now is the one that aligns with you.
That's so good. I think about, your Social Security chapter. I'm not even sure. I think it's either chapter, well, let's just look. It's chapter 6, I believe.
I think
Chapter
so.
6. So someone may call in and go, hey, I've already started Social Security. I hear because I talk about Social Security all the time on the show. Not starting too early. Make sure, more than 500 ways to file, making sure that you have the right plan because it can dictate how everything else is done in your retirement income plan based on when you filed and why. And so someone may call and say, well, we've already started that. So can you still help us? Well, sure, we can. We're still going to take the RISA. We're still going to walk you through that. But a lot of times they'll find out, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't have started this at 62 and now I'm 65. What do I do now? Well, it doesn't mean it's too late. We can still walk through some different steps based on what you've already done. But it certainly is helpful if someone they're listening to this for the first time and they're like, oh, I've been going to seminars, I've been watching videos online. We haven't started yet. We're about to trigger based on what someone said, but should we or should we not? And that's just one of many things that we cover. But that's where we go, well, here's where what we want to do. We want to send you an email copy or a link to the RISA. We want you to take it, Retirement Income Style Awareness. And when you take it, it's going to automatically send you the results. It's going to send you a very customized report. And then let's get together after that and sit down with the report and go over it. So for all of our listeners right now, if you've never taken the RISA, if you've never heard of it, or if you're working with someone and they've never even asked you a question like, what is your purpose? What is your retirement income style? It's probably a good idea to do that. And we'll offer that to you free of charge. So you can call in anytime, 866-780-7233. That's 866-780-SAFE, and just say, hey, I would like to take the RISA. And Wade, if you will, tell them just a little bit about the report that they're going to get back when they take the RISA.
Mm-hmm. So it's a matrix that has 4 different retirement income styles, with the idea being trying to find the style of those 4 that's the best match for you. And it's based on those primary characteristics. Are you more probability based, which means you're comfortable relying on markets? Because a lot of the financial planning world tells you you have to invest aggressively in retirement, 50 to 75% stocks. Are you comfortable with that or not? That's more probability based versus safety first. No, before you start thinking about investing for market growth, you really want to have your basics covered with protected, reliable income sources. And then the other factor being optionality versus commitment. Do you want maximum flexibility to do whatever you want with all of your assets? Or if you can commit to something that solves the problem, Are you comfortable positioning part of your assets to provide that commitment to a lifetime plan, which then just makes you all the more comfortable with your other assets? That finally you do have that discretionary liquidity to make the decisions without affecting your ability to meet your reliable expenses over your lifetime. So you'll get the report that shows how you scored on those two different factors, and then I'll put you in one of the four quadrants, which provides that starting point. This is a retirement income approach that looks to be best for me, so that I know where to begin and how to start to analyze and understand all the debate out there. Because there's a lot of people of these four styles, they all have their advocates. But some people are
Yes.
always like, well, this one style is best for everyone. But we just take a step back and say, no, all four of the styles are appropriate if it's with the right person. And so let's just find the right style for you as the starting point.
Very good. And I think our listeners can relate to this. I had someone call into the show this week, and while they were on the phone talking to me, the husband asked to talk to me, and he got on the phone. He said, Brad, he said, I just want you to know I've been listening to you for 15 years, and I don't have anything you can help with. I've made my decisions a long time ago. I'm kind of already on autopilot, but my wife does, and I want you to help her. And the reason she's talking to you is because I've listened to you for a long time. And he said, I just want you to know, you share all these stories. You talk about all these personal things that go on in your life and things with clients and with your kids. That's what helps me understand breaking it down into something real. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate the feedback. And because of that, I want to tell you something personal. When I first took the RISA, I found out something I already knew, but it was good to see it in the report form. I fell deep into the safety quadrant and a combination of safety with risk wrap. And without going into huge detail, I learned what I already knew, which is that as long as my money was protected and not going to be volatile and going back and forth with a really fluctuating market, and as long as I had protections in place to give me growth but not go through too much of loss, I'm okay. And I can be a lot more risky, and I can be carefree to invest my other money in a different way and swing for the fences as long as I know everything's okay. And actually having that confirmed and reading through that and saying that helped me go, okay, I'm good. I have a lot of annuities with income riders. I have some things in place that no matter what happens, my income's always going to be taken care of. Now, what I have in the market, I can swing for the fences and be more aggressive. I'm okay with that. And that I've watched the last 2 years that really change how I'm more aggressive with the investment side because I have the protections in place, and the results have been fantastic. So thank you to Wade and Alex for confirming and teaching me more of kind of what I already knew, but just you explained it in such a positive way. It helped make sense of it. So if you're listening right now and you would like to find out what your retirement income style is, all you have to do is call. We'll let you take the RISA free of charge, and you and your spouse can take it. We do tell spouses, couples, if you want to take it together, that's fine. If you want to take it separately, that's fine. That will tell us what your two different styles are, and then we can marry those things and find out what the perfect blend is. Because a lot of times, of course, she'll have her assets, he'll have his assets. They've got all these different backgrounds, and so let's both take it if we want to. Call anytime, ask for a free consultation, or ask to take the RISA. 866-780-7233. There's always someone standing by to take your call. Okay, we have my good friend, Dr. Wade Pfau, on the show today. And Wade, I want to ask you something. It's not really controversial, but it's kind of funny to me. In your book, in the Retirement Planning Guidebook, you talk a lot about sequence of returns risk, market risk, how it can impact you early on in retirement. There's this protected decade, if you will, maybe the first 5 years before you retire, the first 5 years after. But interestingly enough, I didn't even know I had TikTok. I didn't know I was on TikTok. Hunter was like, hey, you're getting all these comments on TikTok. I'm like, I didn't know I had TikTok. He's like, yeah, no, we do. And he was putting this stuff out here about sequence of returns risk. And he said, all these guys are coming in saying, oh, that's not even real. Sequence of returns risk doesn't even exist. And here's how you can combat that. And I thought, I'm pretty sure it's real. I've read an awful lot about it. So you talk about this in your book. Talk to us about market and sequence of returns risk, what it is and why it's important to pay attention to.
And part of this really, I think, is just retirement income is still a relatively new part of financial planning. And people learn about investing from the perspective of, and it's how mutual funds show their performance. Like if I put money in the market on this particular date, how does that lump sum amount of money grow over time? And in that kind of analysis, there's no sequence risk. It doesn't matter the order of returns. You always, no matter if the markets go up and then go down, or go down and then come back up, you have the same amount at the end. Now, if someone says there's no such thing as sequence risk, they just haven't learned retirement is different. The problem is, as soon as you start introducing cash flows, so if I'm retired and I need to spend from those investments, it's no longer just market volatility, but the specific order that the returns come that's going to impact the outcome. If I retire just before a market downturn and I'm spending from my portfolio to meet my expenses, then even if the overall market recovers, so that kind of maybe the average return over those next 15 years was decent, but it was the order of returns. Markets went down and they came back up. Well, as a retiree, I dig a hole for my portfolio so that I don't really get to benefit from the subsequent market recovery that might have pulled up the average return over those 10 or 15 years. It's the sequence mattered. I spent from that portfolio. I dug a hole for the portfolio. My portfolio doesn't get to recover with the overall markets. And it's definitely a real thing. We can even see it in the historical data. If you've heard of the 4% rule, it came from the market returns between 1966 and 1995. Well, after 1982, markets did really well, and that's halfway through that hypothetical 1966 retirement period. But it was too late. They'd been spending from their portfolio. They just couldn't recover with the overall market. And so their sustainable spending amount in retirement was much lower than implied by just the average market return over the 30-year period we're looking at when we test something like what's a sustainable spending rate over a 30-year retirement horizon from an investment portfolio.
Yeah, that's so good, and we're actually going to talk about the 4% rule in the next segment. So I don't know. I think through it and go. I think it's really powerful to see the charts that show the exact same rate of returns for two different people, but inversed. Flip them. And if you start off with negative returns, you start off in an '08. Maybe you retired midway through '07, and your first couple of retirement years were '07, '08, '09, and you were 100% in equities, and you're spending down from those assets and paying fees and experiencing losses, then obviously it's going to be different for that person than if they would have started off maybe in 2015, 16, 17 when the market was booming and they had great returns at the beginning. It's a real thing when it comes to spending down your assets.
That's right. And I even ran one of those examples. I don't remember the exact numbers at this point, but yeah, it was, if you got the historical order of the returns over the 30 years, you ran out of money. But if you flip the order, they had millions of dollars after the end of the 30 years. And that's because the order of returns matters. And if you get bad returns early in retirement, even if you're just investing over that time period, you might have got a decent average return, but the retiree, it's too late for them if those good returns come later on because they've been spending from their portfolio. They don't have the assets left to enjoy that market recovery.
And I think one of the things that's powerful to talk about at this point, because we are going to be spending the third episode in this series, I'm going to talk about specific examples of how the unknowns in retirement can really affect things. And so it's not just where you're invested or how you're invested, it can also be what happens in life. So let's just use an example. It literally just popped into my brain. So you retire, and one day into retirement, you have a stroke and a heart attack. Boom, right off the bat, one day in. All of a sudden you've got medical expenses and all kinds of things that are going to take place right off the bat that you weren't planning on. And so you're spending down assets. It's not just about where they are, how they're invested, but you have a massive outflow of money right at the beginning. Well, and then what if someone has that happen 15 years into their retirement when none of that happened before? No medical expenses, things are great. Well, they have two totally different situations there. And then, of course, when you tie in all the different types of investments and whether or not there's protection, whether or not there's guaranteed lifetime income, whether or not there was any long-term care in place, that's all part of the equation. And those are the things that we look at in each individual person's situation. So here's what we want to do. Now, we don't do this with everyone. Some people don't have email. They don't want anything sent through email, and that's fine. But if you call in and you request the opportunity to take the RISA, we'll send it to you via email, and then you'll get your results, and then we can get together and go over that. Or you can come in and meet with us in person, and then we can actually walk through that together. I've had people take the RISA in our office, and again, this stands for Retirement Income Style Awareness. We want to help you understand what your preferred style is for retirement, for planning and investing, so that we can help you the best way possible. Our number is 866-780-SAFE. That's 866-780-7233. And you can take the RISA free of charge. So just call us anytime, schedule a free consultation, and we'll be more than happy to set you up so that you can take the RISA and get your customized report. 866-780-7233. There's always someone standing by to take your call. Okay, friends, if you're just now joining us, we're about halfway through the show and we're here with Dr. Wade Pfau, and we're talking about the Retirement Planning Guidebook. And this is navigating such very important decisions for retirement success. And I want to talk about chapters 4 and 5 in the book. They really go together really well. And Wade, in the last segment, you talked about the 4% rule for investing. And whether or not to take out 4% or more, a little higher, a little lower, depends on who you talk to. Some people say you can take out 10 or 12%, which I think is nuts, but they do. But you've got all this reasoning out here for that. And then you also talk about risk pooling and annuities. So I love the way you use this phrase. I wrote this down: the fundamental logic of annuities and lifetime income. So with all this information out there, we've got all these people watching from all over the world. How do our listeners figure out the appropriate plan for spending from their investments and owning annuities and guaranteed lifetime insurance products like annuities? How do they determine how much should I have in this and how much should I have in that? How do we do this?
It starts with the RISA, and I guess taking a further step back in terms of just the academic approach to retirement income. The retirement income style income protection, and you were describing this before, the idea of first build a floor of protected income, then you can have the capacity to expose your other assets for growth and upside. And when it's earmarked more for discretionary expenses, maybe you want to take the growth, and if markets do well, you'll spend more. If markets do poorly, you'll make some cuts, but that's all for discretionary things. It's not for your essentials. So the idea with annuities, it's really, when we talk about investments, we think of stocks and bonds. When we want to think about meeting a spending goal over a lifetime, it's really stocks and bonds and annuities. And that fundamental logic of annuities is really they act a lot like bonds that provide these coupon payments, but for precisely how long you need them, for as long as you're going to live. And that allows you to spend at a higher rate than you could from bonds by themselves. Because with bonds, if I'm worried I might live to 95 or 100, I have to spend a lot less to stretch that money out over a longer time horizon. And so the fundamental logic is really, and it aligns with what you were saying about that idea of risk capacity. I want to use something more that provides reliable lifetime income protections, annuities, to cover the basics. And then the simplification is, and then stocks on top of that. But the idea is really just then you can build a more diversified, potentially more aggressive investment portfolio on top of that floor of reliable income to cover your discretionary expenses. And that's the academically optimal approach. But just over the years, I've seen so much pushback against anything along those lines, with people even saying take Social Security early so you can leverage your investment portfolio, that I'll acknowledge, okay, the total return approach is you don't really care about any of that. You just want the diversified investment portfolio, and you'll spend from it as needed. But no, if you take a step back from that, let's think about annuities to position to build that floor of reliable, protected lifetime income, make sure we have our basics covered no matter how long we live. And then that opens up the ability to invest on top of that with the more diversified, aggressive investment portfolio. That's going to be more for our discretionary spending, potentially for reserves for the unexpected, and potentially for legacy as well.
That's so good. So let's talk about this, because this kind of hints toward how the RISA can help you determine the right bucket plan. We talked about flooring. We can now talk about buckets. So in the book, you talk about fitting annuities into a retirement plan and filling an income gap with an annuity. And so maybe you need one or two, you might need three. Like this last week, I had existing annuity clients, they had fixed index annuities, contact me from out of state, and they're like, hey, we have some CDs coming due. Well, actually what we want to do is more short term. Do you have anything that's like a CD that maybe could give us 3, 5, 7 years of interest rate returns? And I was like, yeah, it's perfect. A MIGA, multi-year guaranteed annuity. And they also have stocks. And so that they've already got the more aggressive side covered, and they're comfortable with that. But how can you take an annuity and fill an income gap, or maybe create buckets that will work with their other types of investments and have this all married together to create a good income plan for them?
Yeah, and this really starts with budgeting. So part of the retirement planning guidebook is just trying to help guide people to figure out how much they'd like to be able to spend in retirement. Because if you have no idea how much you're spending, it is harder to do this kind of analysis.
It is.
But the idea, yeah, if you're feeling an income gap, it's, let's say, just to make up numbers, there's $60,000 a year that I'd really like to have covered through reliable income sources. And maybe I'm in my early 60s. I've decided to delay Social Security, but then maybe at age 70, this is how much Social Security will be coming into the household. So I might need to have more reliable income to fill that gap until Social Security begins. Might need less after that point. But the idea is I would want to figure out, okay, I need about $60,000 of reliable income until I turn 70, plus something for inflation protection. And then if my Social Security, say, will be $45,000 at age 70, I'll need $15,000 of reliable lifetime protected income on top of that. And so then I can look at more of a fixed income, whether it's annuity or bonds. Annuities are, again, like I'm saying, bonds with added risk pooling and lifetime income protections on top of it. But then looking to build a strategy where I can have those income sources protected and reliable to fill that gap and to make sure I have that $60,000 of reliable income growing over time for inflation. And I don't have to worry about market volatility for that. And then that's the idea. Once I've got that positioned and in place, then I have the capacity on top of that to start investing for growth and upside and the opportunity to just enjoy a better overall lifestyle as well. But I know that I've got my basics covered so I can sleep at night. I don't have to worry about checking, is the stock market going up and down every day? I can just invest more for that long-term perspective because I don't have to rely on the markets to meet my essential spending in retirement.
Well, I don't know how often you and Alex and your colleagues see this, but I know I see it every day. And so every single day someone comes in and sits across from me and I'll say, "Hey, why are you here? Tell me how I can help you." And they'll say either I heard you on the radio or I watched a podcast or a good friend referred me. And they'll hand over their stuff and say, "Here's my stuff. And I want to show you what I've got." And I'll look at it and I'll say, "Okay, do you know what you have here?" And they'll say, "Well, not really." "So do you know what you're invested in?" "No." Okay, well, how did you come up with this plan? "Oh, well, I just gave my money to someone and this is what they did." And so what I've learned so much of the time is no questions get asked. There's no, have you ever talked to the advisor about what your purpose is for retirement? No. Have they ever asked you, the certain qualifying questions that you're teaching us all the time through the Retirement Income Style Awareness Program, through the RISA, and also through the Retirement Income Certified Professional Program? Key questions to ask the client to help determine what their style is and are they in the right thing? And most people just don't know. They have no clue. And so we really want to back up on that if that's the case. That's about 98% of the time that's the case. And we want to back up and say, okay, well, I don't want to do the same thing someone else has done. Let's start with the purpose for all of this. Let's start with finding your retirement income style, what your goals are, when you need to turn on certain buckets of money, how much you need to spend. And then we're going to be able to figure that out appropriately based on all this information that we're going to uncover. So if you're listening right now and you've never talked to anyone about the purpose of your money, why you're doing what you're doing with it, why you're invested the way you are, if you've not had any type of plan set in front of you, then you probably ought to do this. You can contact us anytime and say, "Hey, I want to find out what my retirement income style is. I would like to take the RISA." We'll send it to you free of charge. Our number is 866-780-SAFE. That's 866-780-7233. Just call in, ask for a free consultation, ask to take the RISA. We'll send it to you, and we'll send you your report free of charge. 866-780-7233. There's someone standing by right now to take your call. Okay, friends, we've got a couple of segments left now. I know this is going to be one of the parts of the show that get watched the most because Social Security is the hot topic. There's over 500 ways to file. There's all these things out there right now about IRMA, income-related monthly adjustment amounts, the surcharges on Medicare premiums, Social Security taxation. If you go over income thresholds, you can pull in 50 to 85% of your Social Security and get taxed again. And so it's the hot topic. And I know, Wade, you talk about this in the Retirement Planning Guidebook. In chapter 6, you go into great detail about it. And there's all kinds of discussions right now about when to file, how to file. Should you start at 62 or wait to 65 or wait till full retirement age? And then the fun, confusing thing I know about our good friend and colleague, Dr. Jason Fichtner, says it's kind of funny when they call it full retirement age at 67, but it's not full. You can still have a roll up for 3 more years. So why do you call it full if it's not really full? Because you could keep deferring. So you've got Social Security there. And I want to just read what I put on my notes here. Social Security as an investment and Social Security as the best annuity money can buy. That's what you said. So what do you mean by Social Security being the best investment that the best annuity that money can buy?
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start, because really, if anyone's thinking about building sources of protected, reliable lifetime income, delaying Social Security, and the idea is delaying Social Security is the best annuity money it can buy. And
Yes.
that's because the delay factors that if you can claim as early as 62, you can delay up until age 70. Between 62 and 70, your inflation adjusted protected income amount every year would be about 76 to 77% higher for the rest of your life. And so I ran calculations on the idea that if you're buying an annuity on the commercial markets where if I don't claim at 62, those missing benefits between 62 and 70, that's my annuity premium. And in exchange, starting at 70, I get this 77% higher benefit for the rest of my life. That swamps what commercial annuities are able to provide. And the reason for it is just that the Social Security delay credits that we have today were created in 1983 when people were not living as long, when interest rates were a lot higher than they are today. And so insurance companies have to live in the real world. They can't price anything with 1983 interest rates and longevity. They have to price it at today's interest rates and longevity. And so anyone who's thinking about using annuities as part of the planning, it's really a mistake to start Social Security at 62, and then also you have to buy more annuities at that point. Delaying Social Security is the starting point for any conversation. And that's what I mean by the idea that it's the best annuity money can buy is delaying Social Security.
I couldn't agree more. I talk to people all the time about delaying, and it's almost as bad in some ways as back when the annuity word used to be a 4-letter word. If you said it, they were like, "Oh, well." If someone comes in, they go, "Hey, I'm going to start Social Security at 62, so I've already got that figured out, but I need your help with all the other stuff," and I'll say, "Well, hang on, why are you starting at 62?" And it's almost like they don't even want to be questioned about that. Well, but because, okay, why? Well, because all the guys at the golf course all said I should start at age 62, or all the people in my life group at church all say, "Hey, you better start at 62 or you're going to lose out. You need to stick it to the government and take it while you can." There's like all these reasons why they're being told to start at 62, but there's not a lot of math and science behind it. I'm yet to have someone say, "Well, I've studied all the factors there, all the longevity of my family members, and I've learned the break even point for me, and I just think it would be better now." Normally, it's just kind of a swinging from the hip, shooting from the hip kind of thing. And so I know you talked about it a little bit, but why can it be a big mistake to start too soon and trigger at 62 in the overall plan?
Because Social Security, it's an inflation protected lifetime income source. And for a couple, if you're married and so your spouse is eligible for benefits on your record, it's really it has a survivor benefit that means you'll be getting that Social Security benefit for as long as at least one of you is still alive. And so, especially if you're older than your spouse, we could be, you might be passed away at that point, but maybe your spouse is going to collect that benefit until you would have been 110 years old.
Yes.
And that, or somewhere around age 80 is where it starts to really benefit you from having delayed Social Security. And so if, in that kind of scenario, I think it's important to think of Social Security more as insurance against outliving your assets. That you have this inflation adjusted survivor benefit, lifetime income source backed by the government. And to take full advantage of that by having the high earner in the couple delay their benefit, it's just the odds are your household's really going to benefit from that higher income over the long term. And that also reduces pressure. If I'm getting more out of Social Security, that means I'm spending less from my investments to meet an overall spending goal. And that getting back to our sequence of returns risk conversation, less pressure in spending from my investments, greater opportunity for those investments to grow. You're really laying that foundation to provide a larger legacy at the end of retirement by delaying Social Security as well. Maybe just in the short run, you might fall behind for a few years, but over the long run, you're going to be so much better off. And that's really the basic story behind why at least the high earner in a couple should delay their Social Security benefits.
Wade, this is so good. We appreciate you so much for sharing this. I like to use real life examples. And so let's take one. In 10 days, my father will have been passed for 3 years. He was a financial planner for 50 plus years. He worked as an assistant vice president at Merrill Lynch. He worked in our company for 15 years. He knew all things financial planning. He was a CLU, a CHFC, very smart man. But before all this Social Security talk started, he triggered his Social Security while he was still working at age 65. And of course, when he passed, my mother lost her benefit. It was about $800 a month. She stepped into my father's benefit, which is about $2,000 a month. But my father lived to age 78, and he could have delayed all the way to age 70. If he would have, my mother would be living on a much higher benefit right now for the rest of her life. And I have one of those mothers that, Wade, when she comes up, I know you know Branson and the Ozarks well. She comes up, I'll take her to Silver Dollar City. Someone will say, "Oh, is this your sister?" And I'll say, "No, this is my mother." My mother will very likely live 20 more years. So how powerful would it be if her benefit was another $500 or $600 or $700 a month, $800 a month, because dad would have delayed longer? It is a big, big deal. When you claim Social Security is such a big deal. And that's why we talk about this being covered in Wade's book, the Retirement Planning Guidebook, Navigating the Important Decisions for Retirement Success. And it all starts with the RISA. Friends, if you would like to take the Retirement Income Style Awareness to find out your retirement income style and get a free financial consultation, call us anytime, 866-780-7233. There's someone standing by right now to take your call. All right, friends, it's time to wrap up the show. Time always runs out when Wade's on the show. Wade, we thank you so much for joining us today. And I want to talk about this as we close. You know, in the second half of your book, which we're going to be talking about, again, if you're just now joining us, there's going to be a part 2 and a part 3 to this series using Wade's material. And we've only covered the first part of the book in the show today. In the rest of your book, you talk about Medicare and health insurance, long-term care planning, housing decisions and reverse mortgages, tax planning, legacy planning, and I love this, the non-financial aspects of retirement planning and why that's so important. We're going to cover all that in the second part of the show. And so if you're listening, make sure you tune in for the next couple of weeks. But as we wrap up the show today, as we said at the beginning, you worked with the Retirement Income Certified Professional Program through the American College. I don't know if you know how many people have gone through that program, how many graduates there are. I don't know. It'd be interesting to know. But over the years, talk about the difference that you've seen because people have improved their education. They've walked through something like the RICP program. What difference does it make as a financial professional to have this type of background and training?
I think it's really important because retirement is different, and we start off like going through the risks of retirement, the sequence of returns risk that we talked about, longevity. When you don't know how long you're going to live, it's really hard to plan out how to spend down your assets. Just there's so many different risks, and that lays the framework for let's really build up a robust approach to ensuring that people's retirements will be successful, meaning they don't run out of assets before they run out of time. And then there's all those corresponding decisions with long-term care planning, Social Security planning, Medicare decisions like Medicare Advantage or using a Medicare supplement. There's so much that goes into it with also the estate planning, the non-financial considerations, like you said, that even if the advisor doesn't cover everything in-house, for example, with Medicare, sometimes that's something that they would outsource to a third party, but they really need to be knowledgeable and they need to know what they don't know so that they can help their clients make the right decisions with regard to all the different aspects of retirement income plan. And so that's what the Retirement Income Certified Professional designation really sought out to do, provide that practical education so that advisors can help their clients as they transition from that pre-retirement accumulation phase to that post-retirement spend down distribution phase.
That's so good. You know, my good friend Ed Slott will always say, you don't know what you don't know. And before I took the RICP, I thought I was pretty good at what I did. And then I got deep into the weeds of all these different aspects of retirement income planning. And I realized these are things I'm not covering with my clients. This is going to help me so much. And it just transformed my world. And so both myself and my son, Hunter, we went through the RICP program. It transformed our business. And then I went on to do the tax planning certified professional program, was one of the first 10 people in the country to finish that. And that completely transformed my practice. And so, but all of this has all been wrapped in walking through the RISA with clients. So it's just interesting. There's all these amazing tools and education and experts out there who are willing, like Dr. Wade Pfau, like Dr. Alex Margia, to teach professionals how to do this stuff with their clients. And so we're so grateful for the education, for the ongoing relationship, for being able to put this information in front of our clients free of charge. If you're listening right now, you want to read a copy of Wade's book, you need to just come in. I've got multiple copies of his book and want to share the information with you. If you want to take the retirement income style awareness, just call us. It's free of charge. You'll get a free customized report. And remember, there's going to be part 2 and part 3 of this series over the next few weeks. So if you're hearing this, it's part 1. Look for part 2 and part 3. We're going to be going deep into the weeds about what the RISA is, the 4 quadrants, where you may fall. We're going to talk about how to put it all back together in a retirement income plan. And so, Wade, thank you so much for joining us on the show today again.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brad.
Friends, if you want more information about his book or about the RISA, just call us 866-780-SAFE. That's 866-780-7233. Tell our people who answer the phone, hey, I'd like to meet with Brad. I want to take the RISA, and we will get a link to you. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a great week, and God bless.